I'm Vin.
I'm Sori.
That's Booby.
And Vita and Chip and Culpy.
Friend of the band. Friend of the band. Well, we are friends of the band.
Of course we are.
Friend of the channel, friends of the band.
Yeah.
Grr freaking shock.
You know what's funny? Johan showed me this. He's like, Mom, look at this heart. If you turn it around, he's like, can you see the angry face? I don't know if you guys can see it too, but it is funny. I'm like, figures you'd find an angry face on a heart.
Yeah, so this is Gershach, friend of the band. If you want to know how to get your personal band reviewed,
Yep.
Email us, vinandsori@gmail.com.
Yep.
But this is a band who we've reviewed twice before. And it's a fan favorite. Zonia, this is like, Zonia went out to see him.
Mm-hmm.
So
they did a little interview with us too when we saw them at NAMM. But that is up on their channel, I believe.
Yep.
So, if you're interested in seeing that. They had us do a song review also. So, the only way you can see that song review is to go to their information.
Yep. So, look, he pronounced Gershach. That's because I keep mispronouncing it all the time.
Why, that wasn't there before? No, I think it was.
Was it?
Yeah.
Probably was. Alright, so this is called Germ. It's the last track of their breakout record,
Dark
Dark Matter.
Yeah, and this one just came out, I think, like at the beginning of February, so like a week ago or something. It was released.
Yeah.
So,
very interested to hear this one. Let's do it.
And go. Hi. That was a tough one, huh? You can definitely see how that one's close to the chest.
Yeah. That's pretty freaking brave to be that explicit about stuff.
Yeah. Did any of it remind you of Job?
Yep.
Yeah, me too.
It also...
why is it me? Why target me? Why always me? Despair.
Right.
That to me was like, that's Job.
Yep. Yeah. Well, sonically, this song, like when I first heard it, I was like, oh, this is their Fade to Black.
Oh, yeah?
If you look at the structure of this song,
yeah,
and then you look at the structure of Fade to Black, there's a lot of correlation.
Oh, really?
Now, all Metallica purists don't go crazy on me. Vin said that. Like, we're gonna score the song very high. Obviously, I'm not saying it's exactly like equivalent to Fade to Black, but I am saying structurally, I saw a lot of correlation.
Mm-hmm.
But
I can't piece those things together. So
yeah, I have to talk to the big homie and see if
there was
he
any
agrees.
correlation.
But they're definitely structurally, at least the guitar parts or whatever, it seemed that there was some Fade to Black influence. Okay.
Yeah, it was definitely very honest, and I don't know. I've never heard him talk about his mom. I'm guessing she's passed on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So I was like, that sounds like,
Yeah.
something I would say.
Yeah.
Right? Mama.
Yeah.
And then, I was surprised by the mad at the Lord comment.
Me too, babe. That's so funny.
I was like, huh.
I've never heard anybody call him Lord.
Right, when they're mad at him.
Yeah.
Right.
I've never heard that before.
Yeah. Lord.
Even in any of the songs, I don't hear them calling him, like you hear God but not Lord. And so I thought, I wonder if he has any religious background or something.
Well, that's the other thing. Like, there's groups of Christians that call God certain things.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you could tell.
Yep.
So it's, we say the A in sofa or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Most people are like, what are you talking about?
Yeah.
But it's a certain type of evangelical Christianity that refers to God as the Lord.
Mm-hmm.
Right?
Yeah.
And so it's like a very specific, it's like he must have had that in his background. Mm-hmm. Like pretty close to the way we grew up, basically.
Yeah.
So the term the Lord there, I was like, whoa, that's
so funny.
You've got to kind of be inside, you've got to be inside a certain subculture to hear that type of terminology. Because even in New York, like in the Christians I was around didn't refer to God as the Lord. Mm-hmm. So it's very, very interesting. Okay, keep going. What were you gonna say?
No, that was it though.
What did you think of the video?
The dogs threw me off.
I think he was the dog,
But yeah, obviously, because when he was saying I'm bleeding from the inside of the dog and stuff like that. But, yeah, which, I mean, isn't there like again, which I'm not saying that Rschach knows this when they're making the song, but isn't there like isn't there a verse where Jesus said like he felt like a dog, or no, it was the dogs of Bashan were after him. No,
it's the cows of Bashan. But
no, when he was surrounded.
It's Psalm 22.
And what does it say?
Strong bulls of Bashan surrounded.
Bulls of Bashan.
It is a common statement in the Old Testament. I'm a dead dog. Like David referred to himself as a dead dog.
Yeah.
Like, why are you coming after me? That type of thing.
Yeah.
So there was a lot of talk on, like, this is a distinctly Christian song. Like when he says, "Forgive me of sin." Mm-hmm. If God loves me, then why won't this sin?
Yeah.
Yeah. So before he goes to God, he wants to be forgiven.
Yeah.
He's not saying like that's the thing. He's not saying like I'm gonna kill myself and go into oblivion. Mm-hmm. It looks to me like in some way he believes he'll meet up with God. Otherwise, why are you worried about being forgiven of all your sins? So that was that was very interesting to me.
Yeah.
Like how, because this could easily end up on a Christian record. Mm-hmm. Like I don't see anything in here and of course, these guys aren't. This is not a Christian band, but it is interesting to me. Like, if you're raised in a certain religion, even if you turn away from it and stop believing, like, it's still part of you. Like, I was hanging out. I don't say I was hanging out with these atheists, but there are some atheists. Somebody posted something about having a, do any of you guys have Christian tattoos? And then what do you do with them? And so some people were like, I did this, it was a cross, and then you turn it into like a wheel, or you just put a circle.
Oh my goodness. Okay, yeah.
And,
they became atheists. So,
yeah. Right. And then, but there was this one girl that said something, and then everybody else was like, yeah. She said, yeah, I've got a lot of them. I don't delete any of them. I haven't modified any of them because they were part of my history. They were part of my past, and it shaped a lot of things.
Oh, yeah.
It was just but it was cool, like, to hear, and then it resonated with a lot of atheists because they were basically like, I don't have to ditch everything from my Christian past now that I'm an atheist.
Right.
Like, there are some ideas that I like, and
well, probably shows where you're at too. Like,
what do you mean by
like in a relationship, when a relationship's over and you burn everything and get rid of everything, and you're like obsessed with making sure everything's gone because somehow that helps you get over them or whatever. Like, but if you really have moved on, there can be things around and it doesn't affect you like that.
Right. So it's interesting to me that I don't really know what's riskier, to be that specific about God or the subject matter itself, because I don't think, musically speaking, that everybody has been completely desensitized to the suicide topic. Like, that topic, especially when you're talking about emotional reasons, that topic is still something that we're all sensitive to.
Well, yeah.
And so to write about it that explicitly is pretty brave.
I guess I didn't see the reference for that.
What do you mean?
Suicide?
Well, he says I'll join you from above. Right?
I just thought that he was feeling like he was dying.
I don't think so.
Fed, because he says fed to survive, but deprived of a life. Long time ago it flashed before my eyes, senseless and tortured, my reason is pain. I just thought that the person was in a really bad spot and that they were, like, dying.
Yeah.
I didn't get that that it was a suicidal song.
Well, it looked to me like that. Because he says, help me survive, keep me alive, one last try. Bargain, praying won't work, faith doesn't help, I can't turn back. Why is it me, da-da-da. And then it says die, and then he says I accept, and then warm glow.
So he dies at the end?
Well, I guess...
That is not how I got it.
It says warm glow, a warm glow draws me in.
Yeah. But see, again, I was reading Job into this, so I was thinking about, like, everything that Job went through, and it doesn't say how long Job was suffering for, but eventually things turned around for Job, and then God, like, gave him, like, twice as much as he had before, which I obviously you can't replace children, but but he gave him all that stuff, and, like, when God came to him, like, I was just thinking of that, like, the warm glow, like, okay, God was coming, things, like, he had the questions and things were whatever, but then that was my favorite part, was the outro.
Yeah,
I was like, can you make a whole song like that?
The outro.
Yeah.
Well, he says, die, just let me die, turn my nose dry. Then it says, die, and then he says, I accept.
Yeah.
And then there's a warm glow.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, I didn't realize that. Yeah.
It was like one of those, like, step into the light thingamajiggies.
Yeah, I didn't get that. I see, again, it was just, and I was thinking of it completely in the Job sense, because I was thinking, like, like, you struggle and you fight against the things that cause you to struggle in your life.
Yeah.
And then eventually you can come to a point where you just accept them and you just say, this is my life and this is where I am. And then when you hit that acceptance point, you come into the warm glow. You come into the, okay, like...
Yeah, I took that as he was accepting death.
Yeah. I don't know.
I've had it with this life. It's time to let it go. How did you not see this as a suicide song? It's time to let it go. All the meaning has been drained. There's nowhere left to go.
Yeah.
Farewell to the living.
Those I used to love. Yeah, I thought the person was, like, I didn't see it as suicide. I don't know how I missed that.
Well, it's the Job stuff.
Yeah.
It seems that there's a breakup, and the breakup is what pushes the guy over the edge. Because it says, I can't remember the last time I lived. You wasted the love I was desperate to give. Right there.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then he says,
got that at the beginning.
In the second verse, you're an angel somewhere there. You're an angel. I'm but a stain. So it seems like
why am I so ugly? Mm-hmm.
Right. Oh, I didn't catch that. But yeah, it seems like the relationship ended, and that was pretty much the last thing he was holding on to maintain living.
Yeah.
Somebody wrote me a message, and they were like, they said something, and then they're like, yeah, and I got a relationship, and I made her the center of my world or whatever. And he goes, I know, that's bad. And then he goes, and then it ended up being bad. I'm like,
you don't say.
But that's an interesting line. You wasted the love I was desperate to give. Did you ever, because I know you always like wanted to be married or something when you were a kid. Was a lot of it like you
I was looking for my husband in kindergarten. I couldn't wait to start kindergarten because I thought maybe my husband would be in the class.
I was too busy in the principal's office.
I scared the whatever out of me in school, so I wasn't going to the principal's office. I was so afraid to get there.
So like, was that part of it? Like you wanted to love somebody? Like when you were thinking about having a husband or whatever?
Yeah, I wanted to love someone and be loved in return, and I kind of saw my parents, I think, as like a prince and a princess. Like my mom, like she was always very Barbie-like. Mm-hmm. Her makeup was perfect and her hair looked great, and even when she didn't like go to that extent and she was just like in her day-to-day wear, like I thought my mom was so beautiful, and my dad was strong and he worked hard, and so it was like this picture of like teamwork. And like I said, my parents, if they had disagreements, they didn't have them in front of us, you know?
Yeah.
And my father would always say, I always remember him saying, I love your mother so much. I just love her so much. She'd be coming out of the grocery store. Makes me emotional. He still does it. She'll be coming out of the grocery store and she doesn't even know, and he'll be like, she's the most beautiful woman. He's like, she's so beautiful. And then he was telling us kids, like, it's not like he was like trying to get brownie points from her. You know what I mean? Because she wasn't even in the car. She didn't even know he was talking about her. And so I think that what I saw from them is the clearest picture of unconditional love. And so I think that I wanted that, and I wanted to give that in return. And so I thought, like, it's like adult love, you know what I mean? Like, It's different than a parent loving their kid, you know what I mean? Like, It's grown up stuff, you know? So yeah, that, and I always had like this, I just wanted to be hugged for like a long time. And hugs were never long enough for me from the right people. Like, they were too long from certain family members and like not long enough from other family members. So, so I think that I thought too, like, okay, like when, you know, you get married, you guys work together, you love them, you know, you take care of them, they take care of you. And, there's like the longest hugs, because that's how we thought babies came, was hugs, long hugs. So I was like, yes, I'll get a baby and a long hug. I remember when I was thinking that through, I was like, this doesn't make any sense though. How does a long hug? And how do you know if that you've hugged long enough? Like, what if you hug somebody else too long? You know what I mean? Like, the confusion.
Well...
Why? I don't understand why you asked me that question.
Well, I just asked the question because you wasted the love I was desperate to give. Like, me being on my side, I always grew up like trying to guard how much love or how much of my heart I gave to a person.
Right.
Like, I wasn't like trying to be like, oh man, I really wish I could have somebody I could pour all this love and trust.
No, I wrote it multiple times in journals.
Yeah,
like, oh,
I was always looking at relationships like, you know, they're always going to end eventually, so you can never do that. And then the danger was giving too much, and that she would have too much of your, you know, heart. So like it was dangerous when that happened.
Yeah.
You know, and looking back, I probably wrecked some probably otherwise good situations just because of that.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, I'm not complaining.
My soul's left
Sorry,
to...
babe.
Yeah, here we go.
What? You'd be with somebody else?
Nah. We'd still end up together. We'd still end up together.
Yeah, no, I wasn't like that. It wasn't like, no, in fact, I remember thinking, you know, in my first relationship, I thought, this is not gonna, like, probably work itself. I mean, I don't think that I'm gonna end up marrying this person. Like, I don't think, but I was basically just like, well, you know what? Love and lose.
Right.
You know?
You're horrible.
I'm going all in.
Yeah.
And then I'll take the fallout later on down the road. Well, I didn't go all in.
Make sure it's still a child-friendly program.
I didn't go all in.
Then I always ask myself, like, okay, so one part is like he's lost his relationship, but he's also lost his mother.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So it's like you're in a tough spot with loss. So then when he says, "Why won't this end? What have I done?"
Mm-hmm.
It looks like the main issue here is kind of loneliness, or I don't want to say being abandoned, because his mom didn't abandon him per se if she died, but being left by someone, whether it be voluntarily in a relationship or involuntarily in death. It's the women, the females in your life that you rely on for a lot of that, you know.
I think sometimes too it's like a place of belonging. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, I don't want to cry. But like, you know, like my mom is like she's like a placeholder for me, you know what I mean? Like, I'm like her. She's, you know, like, so if something happened to her, that would be hard. So, you know, for people who have lost their moms, like, when I think about what it would be like to lose my mom, I just feel and see a giant hole. So, you know, and there's nobody that can replace that. Like, it's your mom. So, you know, if you lie, and he's young too. He's younger than, like, he's really young.
In his 20s.
Yeah. You know, that's... But, and the other thing too is when you're young...
I'd almost bet, you know, 9 out of 10 that she's the one that passed on the religious stuff too.
Probably.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's a tough one. You know, when you're a kid, you don't appreciate, we've talked about this before, you don't appreciate the stories that your parents tell and the things about themselves that they say, because you see them as like a mom, not as a person.
Right.
So then when, you know, something happens to them younger, then when you're not mature enough to actually have conversations about, like, how are you, you know, like, to learn about your mom. Like, I've been just now asking my dad questions about himself, which was how I found out that he went to a Kiss concert and stuff like that. Like, I had no friggin' clue about that. So, but if something happens to them when they're young, you never get that opportunity. It's just terrible.
Yeah. But that right there is a common question. If God loves me, why won't this end?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Why must I suffer? I wish I could be tougher. Please forgive me of sin. So that's the big question, you know, is why do we suffer if God really, really loves us and all the rest of it? And I almost...
Oh, look. Is that the, yeah. You know the list of all the stages of grief? Mm-hmm. Look, there's deny here, anger, bargain, despair, acceptance.
Right.
I think that he put that.
Yeah.
I don't know if there's
So
more, but
is it 5 stages of grief?
I can't remember, but I think all of those are on those. So,
denial will be the first.
So maybe this whole thing is actually his journey through the death of his mother.
I don't think so.
Or the loss of his relationship.
Well, yeah, but he's talking about dying.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like a twisted way of, like, him accepting death, but not in the right way. Because the stages of grief are an act of God. God afflicts you with something, and you're going to die, and, you know, all that.
Yeah.
But killing yourself doesn't count that way, but he's kind of using it that way.
No, I'm saying the stages of grief dealing with his mom's death or dealing with
I think it's
the
the
loss
stages
of the
of grief
relationship.
dealing with his own death is what I'm saying.
Oh my gosh.
And it's
okay.
that's not the way that it usually goes.
Right.
But I hate to commend the the intellectual sort of places you have to go to be able to do that.
Yeah.
But it was pretty smart. Don't do it. If you do that, I'll hurt you.
No.
Anyway, yeah, that's a good catch, babe. Very intelligent. But I'm always like hesitant to answer that question. Is like why God puts you through suffering if He loves you.
Yeah.
And part of the reason is because people like always throw out these hallmark 2-minute answers. That there's so much literature and ink that's been spilled on that topic that these 2-minute answers to me I feel are like cheap. Mm-hmm. But it's such a terrible, uncomfortable topic. Mm-hmm. It's like God knew your girlfriend was going to break up with you and that you would need the maternal love and support, but guess what? She's gone too. Mm-hmm. And if you say that God is omniscient and all-knowing and then all-powerful, then He let it happen and He was going to happen. He knew for trillions of years it was going to happen.
Right.
And so, what there's been the classical ways of handling that question, and then there's the modern ways of answering the question. The modern way of answering the question was open theism, right? Like, well, he doesn't know everything. So there's like this growing movement for Christians to deny the omnis, right? The omnipotent. Like, oh, He doesn't know everything, so He felt just as bad as you did because that happened.
Yeah.
Or process theology, that God is like Himself evolving and whatever. So it's like, so there's that, and then there's the free will solution, which is God would like bad things not to happen, but He can't stop them because of people's free will. And then the other classical answer is divine providence, which is God knew it was going to happen and put it into His plan for some greater purpose. Right? So you have God doesn't know, God knows, but He won't violate free will. God knows because He intended for some greater good to come out of it. So, my answer is, of course, not, oh, God didn't know.
Right.
I just don't think you'd be honest with the Bible and say that.
Yeah.
The free will thing, to me, doesn't really work either. And the reason is there's a lot of times where evil happens that goes against a person's free will.
Right.
So it's like a bank robber and the victim, both of them now, one of these two are going to lose their free will.
Exactly, yeah.
And God is always on the side of the bad guy, honoring his free will.
Right, when a bad thing happens,
Yeah. So that's not compelling, and biblically I never really see God being worried about people's free will. He wasn't worried about Pharaoh's free will. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But then the last one is God intended it somehow, some way, because it's part of some overarching plan.
Right.
And that's when I camp in. And
yeah.
The reason I don't like saying that is because I've had my wars with God about that.
Yeah.
And I've come to peace with it.
Yeah.
So I'm at such peace with that concept now that as far as me and God goes, I'm never going to question Him again. But we had to go through a lot of wars and questioning, and I feel like when I give that answer, I'm saying it from my perspective with all those wars with God that I had.
Oh yeah.
But it comes out as another 2-minute little, God has a plan for your life, so that's why things happen. But then I look at this situation and I say, okay, well, we're talking about a song about a guy who lost his mom, lost his girlfriend, and we're talking about how to hang on to life.
Yep. And
the struggle for survival. You're going to tell me that this discussion isn't going to help somebody?
Right.
It's obviously going to help somebody.
Of course, yeah.
We get those emails all the time.
Yep. Daily.
So it's like,
yep.
Okay, well, all those horrible things conspired to create this moment where you're sitting here watching this right now. So then it's like, when he was going through the situations that inspired this, do you think he was saying, "Oh, I'm gonna have a YouTube channel and there's gonna be this group and they're gonna, whatever, and they're gonna review it,
seen by X amount of people,
right? And
it's gonna help this many people."
Yeah, he's not thinking that. What he's thinking is, why is this happening to me?
Right. No, it's true. It's
so
true. Yeah.
One of the things that's really interesting to me about not living in the biblical world. So like when you go out, get outside of the biblical universe and go into like the world that we're in now, especially as a Westerner, everything is really individualized. Mm-hmm. So you see yourself as an individual.
Yeah.
And obviously there are benefits to that, but then there are other points where there are serious detriments that we have to it. So in the biblical world, you were always connected to other people.
Yeah.
You never, the biblical world's almost upside down. Like people always saw themselves as belonging to a group or belonging to a family or belonging to a tribe. They never really valued themselves as individuals. Mm-hmm. So what that does is, if I were to say to somebody, you're not suffering just for yourself, but you're suffering for people in far off generations, which David ends up saying at the end of Psalm 22, that the suffering that would happen was going to be declared to another generation.
Yep.
And so if you're suffering and you grow up in an individual context, you're always going to say, how is this happening to me? But if you're suffering and you take a collective context, then there's sometimes when you can say, my suffering is going to do something for the collective.
Yeah.
And like that's automatically where your mind goes. And Job really doesn't get in trouble until his collective around him started saying things against him. See, that he couldn't handle that because he's a collectivist and you're in community, and it's horrible enough these things happen to me.
Yeah.
But now my community's turning against him.
Yeah.
Which then forced him to think like an individual.
That's wild, yeah.
And then Job starts talking about me and me, hey, me. Before he's saying the Lord gives, the Lord takes away, because he's still part of his community. But when his community flipped on him, and he felt by himself, that's when you close into yourself. And that's why at the end of Job ends up saying, I was speaking about things I didn't realize and yada, 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 because the more internalized that you become when you're dealing with depression or family tragedy or just a life tragedy, the more enclosed on yourself you become, the less and less chance you have of actually recovering.
Yeah.
So a lot of times, in my, when I was at the hospital, my doctor used to, shout out to Dr. Petzel, she used to talk about self-talk. And I think one of the indications that you're in serious danger is if there's a lot of I, me, and there's no world outside of you.
Yeah.
And it's interesting because, in Fade to Black, he says, getting lost within myself.
Yep, he does.
Nothing matters, no one else.
Yeah.
And so if it becomes very you-centered, you're focusing on your pain, your suffering, your agony, your loneliness, me, a lot of times that means you're in serious danger. And some of that might have to do with you're cut off from a community. Like I said, Job didn't really start talking about himself until he felt cut off from his community. So some of that might be, hey, you need other people around you, right? But some of it could just be, we've never really been exposed to the communal suffering of other people because not everybody's as brave as this.
Right.
So that's another way you can be cut off from community and feel like an individual. Because everybody wants to put the Facebook version of themselves out to the public.
Yep.
So then when that happens, you're less likely to say
that's true
what's actually happening. Right? Like there's a couple songs ago we were talking about just problems in our relationship came up, and we just spent the half an hour talking about our relationship. And then a couple people said, I didn't sign up for this, Like it's designed, hey, keep that problem there, but of course our assumption is that our community in the main cares about us. So we're gonna say that. But if a person is folded within themselves, either because they've removed themselves from the community or there really is no community, and you're in a lot of trouble.
Well, that, and we're trying to be real, So real relationships have issues that they have to work through.
Right.
And some people are watching our content consistently, so they would see that And then, like, I don't know, there was like 4 days later, then we were like, we had a really good discussion, blah, 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 you know? So,
right.
You know,
right.
like that's how those things actually work out. Yeah, and you're right. Like, there's different things that I've been through in my life, and some of them I was like, this is, like when I went through my miscarriage, that was really difficult, but I was like, this is going to help other people. And, like, every time it comes up in a discussion where I'm able to help somebody because of it, I'm like, this is another reason. Oh, here's another reason.
Right.
You know, that I couldn't see when it was happening.
You're thinking communally.
Right.
Yeah.
And it did help me in the healing process, you know, because there's other things where I don't think communally about it. And the process of healing has been a lot slower.
Right. Right. But those are the two, like, major ideas about the problem of suffering. If God loves me, why won't this end? So, like, let's question God's love. But then the other equally wrong one is, if I deserve this, and what have I done? And there's a lot of Christians that are like,
it's interesting because it's not that far off from when he said, forgive me of sin.
Right.
So in one sense he's like, forgive me of sin, and then in another sense he's saying, well, what have I done?
What have I done? Right. Well, I think everybody's kind of in that limbo of saying, okay, I know I'm not perfect.
Right. But I wasn't.
But then they're like, this can't be.
But this is not equal.
Deserving.
Yeah.
Yeah. But you know, this is what happened in John 10 with the man born blind. They said, good teacher, whose fault is this man or his parents, for why he was born blind? And Jesus says, neither.
Yeah.
Which is mind-blowing to them, because a lot of religious people love to say that if you're going through a particular trial or tribulation, it's directly related to something that you did, and God is wrecking your life because he's mad at you. I mean, did you hear that growing up? So-and-so would fall off your ladder? Oh, there you go.
No, my church didn't believe that, but there was a church that was closely related with my family that believed it.
Yeah, I know what you're talking about. Yeah.
And then a lot of stuff started happening at that church. A lot of people.
Yeah, it's a really dangerous.
I think God challenged that thought process that they had, because there was a lot of people that really thought that, and then all of a sudden, you know.
Yeah. Yeah. So, I mean, but of course it's a lie. I mean, the ultimate example of that is Jesus. Like, God had Jesus suffer.
Right, and he did nothing. Literally nothing.
Yeah, he did nothing wrong, and God obviously loved him. But again, Jesus was doing it for a community of people.
Right. All right.
I've had it with this life. It's time to let go. The meaning has been drained. Yeah, I just think that, this is a pretty crazy conversation. Have you ever felt like that God was specifically coming after you and targeting you?
I think I felt more like he was specifically not talking to me, or not targeting, not coming near me, more than him targeting me for. But I never had a bunch of things that were like boom, 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 all happening at the same. You know what I mean? Like,
right.
It was one cluster of events, but they involved all the same people. So it's not like when it rains, it pours. People will say, well, it wasn't. I don't think I had that situation. So.
Well, that thing where he says, praying won't work, faith does not help, I can't turn back. I've talked to, this is one of the reasons why I always say, if you want to know what people believe, listen to what they say about themselves. So you watch all these like, oh, this is how you engage an atheist, blah, 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 and then you're supposed to say, you're a suppressor of truth and unrighteousness, and yada, yada, yada. And like, I get that that may be true with some people, but there's been a lot of people who, remember that dude at the Behemoth show? His I think it was his cousin, his little cousin, she was like 11, was dying of leukemia, and he prayed, and everybody in his crew prayed, everybody prayed, and she died.
Yeah.
And he was like, after that, it's like, there are people who legitimately like prayed and were really hurt.
Yeah.
You know, it's not just, oh, you don't want to believe in God because you want to, sin as much as you'd like, which is what you're supposed to say to atheists or whatever. Like, there's a lot of people who legitimately prayed, full of faith, and have
I actually hear that story a lot.
Yeah, have been faced with some really inexplicable issues where they're like, yo. It may not all be complete rationality and reason from our perspective, but I think Christians love to discount the authentic faith of former believers because they're insecure about their own faith. Because they want to say, you just, just walked off because you were some, whatever. They want to be able to say that instead of like taking the person at their word and saying, no, they were a genuine believer who walked away. But if you give them that, then people feel insecure about where they stand.
Yeah.
But
could be. I'm not sure.
Anyway, what do you give the song?
I actually sonically wasn't a fan of it. The topic I thought was great, and I loved the outro. So I'm gonna go with a 7.4.
Are you kidding me?
I didn't like it sonically.
This was a 10.
A 10?
This was a 10 for me.
Yeah, sonically it wasn't my thing.
I felt like he followed the modern day Fade to Black template.
Yeah.
This was pretty close.
It's a 10 for him.
It's a 10 for me. What'd you say?
7.4.
8.5?
7.4.
9?
7.4.
Didn't you said 7.9 before?
No. I said 7.4.
Well, what we've discovered is that Sori doesn't know music. Vin out.
This is my opinion, my reaction. Sori out.
Gone.